I'm Now Your Sister is a completely normal anime about a 20-year-old guy called Mahiro who is a self-proclaimed home security guard, which is a fancy way of saying he has no job and hasn't stepped outside and touched grass in 2 years. His younger sister Mihari is a genius mad scientist who secretly spiked his drink with an experimental drug that turned him into a middle school girl. And now, Mahiro needs to learn the ins and outs of being a girl. You know, the usual. It's not too often that you hear a premise and get immediately sold on it, but that's exactly what happened to me 3 years ago. That's right, I'm a filthy manga reader, but don't worry, I'll be keeping the discussion anime friendly. There have been a few other gender-bender anime over the years, but it's almost always done as a gimmick. Take Yojo Senki for example. In that story, God was upset that the main character didn't believe in him, so he made the main character reincarnate as a poor girl in an orphanage to maximize his misfortune and suffering to force his hand into believing. The only real effect being a girl has on the plot is that it's more difficult for him to be taken seriously, especially in the military. In Ore Twintel ni Narimasu and Campfur, it's used as a plot device for fan service, to put them into embarrassing situations, and to hide their identity while doing their thing. I'm Now Your Sister is the first anime I've seen that actually delves into gender differences and the day-to-day things that make us different. Sure, it's done in a comedic way, and it really is funny, but I think it's pretty educational. If you're a girl, you're probably rolling your eyes right about now because what they show in the anime is mostly mundane and kind of obvious, but that's exactly the point. It may be mundane and obvious to you, but not to guys. Take this scene for example. Speaking of foreign objects, there's a really interesting one below this video. I wonder what it does. There are some things, no matter how minor, that you just don't know without experience, and in my opinion, this anime is great for gaining some secondhand experience and a bit of extra perspective that goes with it. From the big things like having to do some acrobatics to tie a bra behind your back, to the little things like having a period. There's also some really minor things like this scene, after Mihari was teaching Mahiro how to wash and treat long hair and the amount of time needed to do it properly. While the anime presents itself as a lewd comedy about a man learning about womanhood, which it is, there's more to the story than just the gender change, and that quickly becomes apparent right from the first episode. Mahiro talks about his little sister and how massively successful she has been at everything, from being athletic to being so smart that she skipped grades and made it into university early. In a trope as old as time, being overshadowed by a very successful sibling can take a toll on a person and have varying consequences. In Mahiro's case, all of the comparisons that were being made between him and his sister only led him further and further away from society, until he got to the point where he becomes a recluse who does nothing but waste his life away playing video games. While his sister was devious and presented this as a clinical trial, which is true to some extent, the secret papers on her desk reveal her real goal. They're not about some experimental drug trial, but instead they're labeled the Big Brother Rehabilitation Keikaku. And from what we can tell, she really does care about her brother. She sets up some routines to help him break out of his bad habits, like a regular sleep schedule, daily baths, proper meals, and changing clothes every day. And then there's the dreaded going out of the house, paired with doing exercise, which would make the blood of any shut-in run cold. All in all, this is a story about a shut-in's rehabilitation into society, and I'm all here for it. All of this happens thanks to a miracle drug that drastically changes the main character's appearance. Wait a minute, where have I heard that before? 6 years ago, an anime called Real Life came out with a similar premise. In that one, the main character, Kaizaki, was an adult who wasn't quite a shut-in, but he was jobless despite trying hard to get a job. He was suddenly approached to take part in a paid 1-year clinical trial with the possibility of a job afterwards. As a broke-ass man who was very drunk and down on his luck, he signed the contract. As a side note, if you're ever drunk in public and a stranger approaches you with a contract that sounds too good to be true, don't do it. You may find yourself missing a kidney or on a boat somewhere. Or you might be signing up to suffer emotional damage to help prevent the heat death of the universe. Back to real life, when Kaizaki took the pill, he woke up looking like he did during his high school years. As part of the trial, he ended up going back to high school with the goal of being rehabilitated into society. There are of course some differences between Real Life and I'm Now Your Sister, like the researcher being his own sister and the drug also changing his gender, but a lot of what made Real Life special can be found in this anime. As someone who's a little older and wishing I could go back and do things differently, the idea of having a magical do-over is quite appealing, which I suspect is one of the reasons isekai is so popular. I love watching or reading about characters that go about improving their life, magic or not, which is why I also really like Mushoku Tensei and bottom tier character Tomozaki, for example. If there's any anime you know of in the style, please let me know in the comments below. We can't talk about I'm Now Your Sister and not talk about the absolutely nuts production quality. This anime is produced by Studio Bind. If you don't typically follow this sort of information, I don't blame you, but this one's rather juicy. If you don't know, Studio Bind was created for the sole purpose of adapting Mushoku Tensei, and boy did they adapt it. Mushoku Tensei was universally loved, winning tons of fan awards on sites like Reddit and receiving very high scores on sites like MyAnimeList and AniList, in large part due to the exceptional quality. The animation, the music, and the direction were some of the best to come out in anime. Studio Bind even went so far as to invent 2 separate languages and have the voice actors convey their level of fluency through their voice acting. In short, they went hard. So it came as a surprise to a lot of people that, for the first time since the studio's creation and producing the masterpiece that is Mushoku Tensei, they picked up this. Well, they're certainly upholding their reputation because, just like with Mushoku Tensei, they're going way more hardcore than they have any right to. They popped out an opening and an ending that are sure to be contenders for Best of the Year. They embellished and added scenes to the anime that weren't even in the manga. I'm quickly becoming a fan of Studio Bind, and I'm loving every minute of the adaptation of I'm Now Your Sister. And with that, if you haven't already, go watch it! Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.